We're live.
It even tells us that. It's like there's a red light that's gone on.
There's a red light, yes. So that's the ticker. Okay.
It even tells us that.
Oh, okay. I can share on my end. So we'll do that. Then we're live on YouTube. Just about to get started here. We will start in approximately 2 minutes. Hope everyone is well. Enjoying our new little setup here. We'll talk about that as we get through. Got lots to talk about. As hockey is returning.
And we can go.
We are live. Well, hello, good afternoon, all. Happy Saturday to you. 13 days before Christmas. I don't know if I should have told you that, but I did. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey. You're watching live on Facebook and live on YouTube as well. The links have been sent through the Podcast Hockey account as well. Like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube as well. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, iTunes, Google, Spotify, etc. And welcome our new presence. We were using Zoom before, not that we dislike Zoom, but we are now using StreamYard, which is a nice word because it streams everything together. So for those that missed Wednesday, I'll take you behind the curtain here. For us to kind of set up, there's a link that we had to set up with Zoom, and then a link that we had to set up with Facebook. And then I had to it was a lot of work to set up. Now this is it's streamed so it looks a lot more effective and a lot nicer. Right, Sean?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to set up, and we look a little bit more professional now.
Yes. And last couple of weeks we were killing penalties, but Devin has jumped off the ice from his penalty. He's jumped into the play. Hello, Devin. How are you?
Doing better than the last couple of weeks, let me tell you. 3 hospital stints and some antibiotics and passing a kidney stone as well.
Ow.
So,
wow.
It's been a bit of a hell of a couple of weeks here, but I am almost at 100% now, which is good.
Well, thank you I'm glad you're okay.
Hey, me too.
Okay-ish, I guess. Yeah. Good to have you. Tyler is here, Noble Nation, bringing Terrace to us. Hello.
Yes. Good morning, guys. I didn't see the Noble Nation hashtags in the promotional material.
Oh
here,
my God.
Kevin, I don't know, but
I failed. I have failed. I will retweet that now here as we are doing this.
Regards to Devin, the beard is bushier than ever. You look good, buddy.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I was gonna say you've got like the preseason playoff beard down to a science.
Oh yeah, it's I'm actually making my own beard oil now. So we'll be launching that pretty soon here. So maybe that'll be our first advertisement on here and first promotional, which would be fantastic. But I mean, for the next month or so, or I guess for the next month, just going to keep on growing it. So because if depending on where you are here in Alberta, we have new regulations for the lockdown, right? So I won't be going anywhere or doing anything.
Fair. Yes. We have. That I will leave that. We'll get into a little bit of that a little bit later here, but I think obviously where we are at here is we'll start with our topic, of course. We had Pierre LeBrun, and Sean, if you have the tweet, just to remind everyone what the divisions are at this point being proposed with a little bit of a couple of tweaks. Of course, we have the Canadian division, which is the Calgary, all the all-Canadian teams. And then you have Boston, Buffalo, Jersey, Islanders, Rangers, Philly, Pittsburgh, Washington, Carolina, Columbus, Florida, Nashville, Tampa Bay, and then the reunion sort of the Norris division of Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota. And then you have Anaheim, Arizona, Colorado, Dallas, LA, San Jose, St. Louis, and Vegas. There is a couple of quibbles from teams. St. Louis is in a bit of a quibble because obviously that's not a good travel. I don't think Dallas is enjoying the travel to the Pacific Division. But maybe we'll start with Tyler. What are your thoughts on these divisions? How do you feel about these from there?
Well, there's a good reason why they went to a 4-division north-south alignment after Winnipeg changed, moved from Atlanta and all that. So, and we see why here now. It's very difficult to make all the teams happy. You've got some teams that are going to be traveling 2 time zones regularly for divisional play. That would be the quibble for Dallas, Minnesota, Nashville, those in particular. St. Louis looks kind of tough there. I mean, I suppose you could make a couple of tweaks. I looking at that, I would think that it makes more sense maybe to have Minnesota in with the Western teams as opposed to St. Louis, but I'm not sure how you get to a consensus there, just given the way the geographical realities are.
Devin?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with all this. I don't see, obviously everybody's going to have, or at least 1 or 2 teams are going to have problems with this. I mean, Detroit and Buffalo are pretty close together, and they're not in the same division. But I don't know. I'm totally fine with it. Yes, it's going to suck for some teams, but this whole year has sucked. So I just say suck it up, and let's play some hockey.
Yeah, I believe the big quibble is between Minnesota, St. Louis, and Dallas on who gets stuck in the division with all the California teams. I know that St. Louis actually and their broadcast partners actually aren't too upset with being there, is what I've heard through multiple reporters and all that. But I do think that Minnesota and Dallas are going to be a little bit fighting over who gets there, which is kind of funny considering the fact that Minnesota moved to Dallas and now they're fighting over that in just this one off season.
Just want to add in regards to broadcasting, if there's not going to be fans, at least to start the season, perhaps the league can look at compromising on start times a little bit, bumping them up earlier when you have, say, Dallas versus Los Angeles or something. Why can't you start it at 6 o'clock local time so it's not so bad, back in Dallas? So we'll see on all that. In baseball, look, the American League West Division has Texas Rangers out of Arlington. You've got the Houston Astros. Then you got some Pacific time zone teams, and they do that on a regular basis. So it's not unheard of in sports, but not what the NHL is used to.
Well, and even in the NFL, St. Louis, when they were the St. Louis Rams, they were part of the NFC West. Kansas City is part of the AFC West, right? So, I mean, I understand that. I wonder how much of this, from a team perspective, strategically, you look at this from a Dallas, St. Louis, and Minnesota perspective. How much of this is the competition in each of these divisions? Because if you're St. Louis, you're playing Colorado and Las Vegas as an example. Is that playing somewhat into this in terms of who you want to play on a regular basis? Because we know that it is all going to be all divisional.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, why would you want to complain about being part of the Pacific Division on that measure if you're going off of last year's results? But I don't know. Owners are still, I think, going to sort of, especially given what's happened so far, they're going to really lean towards the whole profitability part of it.
That and like all the Canadian teams have to deal with this, right? But just because of the border, we've all just resigned ourselves to know that there's going to be massively long road trips for teams 2-3 time zones away from what the home time zone is. So it's the reality of what this 2021 season is going to look like, and just gotta one of those St. Louis, Minnesota, Dallas teams is not going to be happy, and you just have to deal with it.
Well, the Canucks have been dealing with travel forever and being in the worst position team, and they complain about it, but they have a right to complain about it. So for 1 year, one of those central teams just is going to have to suck it up, and along with the whole Canadian division is going to have to suck it up too. So there's not one person who's going to be well, I guess if you call it the metropolitan division is always going to be benefiting from that stuff. So it's just the way that it is geographically.
Yeah,
let's not forget the Detroit Red Wings either. I mean, 4 Stanley Cups in the 90s and 2000s, and they had one of the most challenging schedules as well, being an Eastern time zone based team in the Western Conference.
Yeah. Which leads us to our next one here. Is it landing? I'm trying to create a banner. Do we have a banner? Scroll across. Let me.
Negative.
Okay. Here.
Here we go. Whoa.
There we go.
Look at the production value here. We got the boxes and the banners and the graphics. Just
yes, yes, quite exciting.
It's just
wow.
So we're bear with us. We're getting used to these new the new controls.
Oh
yeah.
Man.
So what? I thought the hockey guy, shout out to the hockey guy, who put out a really interesting format about how the power is. Yeah. So let's start here. Let's look at the Canadian division. It is wide open, but there is going to be a team with a fantastic record that I think that we're going to I think let's just say probably will look a little bit overrated. We'll have to kind of see what that is. But there's a number of teams in the Metro division that are really strong, and you could legitimately argue that are going to be better than the Canadian division teams. So how do we have a playoff format? What would be an ideal playoff format going forward?
I would say the best format would be 4 teams out of each division goes into playoffs, and kind of back to the Eastern and Western Conference days of 1 plays 8, but in this case it'd be 1 plays 4 and 2 plays 3, and basically kind of go from there. And I guess after the first 2 rounds, then whoever is on top and who had the most points, I would say is number 1 seed, and then go down from there, just have a reseed after that.
Yeah, this could go any which way. I wouldn't rule out the idea that it's the 16 best records and then kind of divide it up geographically after that. It's really hard to say which way it'll go. I think, if you want to really factor in the whole competitive imbalance that may exist between divisions, then you would have to go with the top four and kind of work it down from there in each division. What I'm interested to see, though, is will we end up with an East-West Stanley Cup final traditional matchup, or will that, end up being thrown aside here? So far, it seems like preserving the integrity and the traditional way of the playoffs has always been a priority. So I think that's unlikely, but I don't see any more than 16 teams being qualified for the playoffs. I'll say that much, regardless of how they kind of decide which 16 it's going to be.
The hockey guy, the video in his video talked about how he might expect the top two teams. I think what was it in each division getting a bye and having like a best of 2, best of 3, best of 5 play-in series like we had this past year. And the more I think about it, and the more how we talked about how there's going to be competitive imbalance, there's going to be teams not happy with the divisions they're in. They may have to appease some of like these teams and put the extra playoff, quote unquote playoff spots in to make them happy. And if that's the case, then it's going to be a long season. It's already going to be a very compact season. But the more I think about it, the more I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, just because of the compromises that some teams are going to have to make in these new divisions.
It definitely does offer wiggle room for a stronger division getting maybe another team or two into the tournament versus one of the weaker divisions.
And it's not even about because the other part is if it's all intra-divisional within the division schedule, then you don't know you literally don't really know what the strength of the divisions are until they start playing in the playoffs.
I guess it depends how much everybody wants to believe in the whole parity thing that we always hear Gary Bettman talking about, how they have great parity and great playoff races. I mean, if they are all really believers in that, then maybe they really aren't concerned that much at all about strength division to division. But we'll see. Another thing that I'm wondering about is, will we actually know the playoff format at the start of the regular season? I mean, we're kicking around ideas here. I mean, it could take them quite a while before there's actually an announced playoff format.
I think it would be.
I'd be surprised, man. I wouldn't. With the way that the world's going right now, yes, we have the vaccine. Yes, there's going to be people or players that are going to be, tested positive for COVID. Like there's too much uncertainty as of right now for them to solidify a playoff format in my mind.
I think we see a solidified playoff format, but I do think we see a very we'll see the schedule be released in parts because of the uncertainty of whether or not, well, if they can open up the border and have games within all the between all the divisions, then you're set. You don't have to you'd be so much happier because then Vancouver and Calgary can see Crosby and Ovechkin play. All the teams in the States can see McDavid and Matthews and Pettersson play. I think that would be huge. But I do think that the players, the owners are both going to want to have a playoff format decided on before the season starts, so they know what the end game looks like.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tyler.
Well, the reason why I raised that possibility is because that's how it went with baseball. They didn't announce the final playoff format until after the regular season had started. So now, of course, they made the number of teams greater than normal, so nobody was really complaining about that. But it was quite a dramatic change in terms of what the first round looked like before getting down to the traditional division series, LCS, and World Series. But you know, if there's a lot of griping about what the divisional groupings are going to be, imagine what the discussions are like behind the scenes over who's in the playoffs. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Could be a while.
Well, and the other thing too is, I mean, the vaccine is one portion of this, and we'll get into that discussion a little bit later. But the other part of this is if the rapid testing that has been talked about in Alberta, and I know in other provinces and other places can get going, that opens some doors as well for some possibilities for players to move across and see some of those Canada-US matchups. And again, and the other thing that I do think is going to want play in here is when and if, and I did say if, I'm not if some fans can start entering in some arenas, how that works, right? Because, like as an example, if Crosby and Ovechkin come to Vancouver, you're going to want to have some fans in the stands, right? That just, to me, I'm not the best businessman in the world, but that seems logical to me that if you're going to want to make sure that you make as much money as possible or have as good of a game experience as possible, where you could do a Toronto-Calgary series now, and you're not like, it would be great to have fans in the stands, but everybody's going to be watching that. Like, I mean, Devin there, I don't know how he's going to cheer. Like, is he going to cheer with his hat? Or is he going to cheer with his shirt? That's what I wonder.
He's just going to be this emotionless lump on the couch just when the game's going on.
I disagree. I'll be so happy. Watching both my teams play. Oh, love it. Love it.
You can't lose.
You can lose. The only problem is that, like, say, for instance, if let's say Tkachuk does a, questionable play against one of the Leaf players, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I guess that's my point is how that plays in. I think that's going to play into this a little bit. I mean, to me, I'm no expert, but it looks to me so far that there is a possibility that there'll be cross-border, probably when we expect the playoffs to start. I think that there should be some opening there, the way things are going, but you never know. So we'll see there.
Yeah, if there isn't, then they'll have to propose some sort of modified quarantine proposal, and some, I don't know if it means going back to some form of a bubble at some point. I know they don't want to do that, but that's worst case scenario. I'm sure the plan is based on the expectation of loosened border restrictions and fans being allowed by the time the playoffs start, which would be May. But am I hearing this right? You guys are suggesting there may be some interdivisional play as the season goes on. Is that what I'm hearing? Because I'm of the belief that's not going to happen.
I think that's why I think they're going to release the schedule in stages, because I think there's still hope for that. They're still hoping for the border restrictions to loosen. They just announced another 30-day extension of the border being closed, and the 14-day quarantine, and every 10 or 14-day quarantine still being in effect. I think there's some hope that come, say, early March, maybe late February, maybe even early April, because I think this regular season is going to go a little bit later than normal. They'll be able to if the border can open, then I think the NHL will do their best to have some games out of teams not within their own divisions, because it's just gonna, as exciting as it is right now, especially for the Canadian division. Come March and you played Toronto 5 times already, it's just gonna be like, oh great, we get to play Toronto again. Like you want to play other teams. Like who are the 2 biggest rivalries for the Canucks in the past 10 years? Chicago, LA, Boston, all American teams. They've got that. We aren't going to get the Tkachuk versus Doughty this year. We aren't going to get those rivalries that we really enjoyed last year. And I think the NHL knows that, and I think they're going to do everything they can to be able to at least bring a few games of that to this season if possible.
I disagree. I feel like I'm kind of with Tyler. I don't think that I think they're going to have this interdivisional play as far as the regular season goes, and don't be surprised there if the NHL comes out and says there could be 3 options for the playoff format, and there's going to be tendencies on each one, and it is what it's going to be. It's going to suck seeing your team play the exact same team 8 times if you're a Canadian hockey fan, but that's just the reality of it. Once again, I don't know. I'm trying to stay positive here, because let's everybody stay positive, please. This negativity about talking about hockey, it's not needed, Sean. Is what I'm trying to tell you. So shut up with the negativity, positivity. Hey, that's what we need right now.
Like I said, you're saying they're going to keep their options open with the playoffs. That's what I'm saying with the regular season. I wouldn't be surprised if it's all within the division at all. I'm just saying that I think they're going to keep their options open as much as possible for some outside of division games, just because it will pop ratings more than just another Winnipeg versus Edmonton game.
Yeah, I if I were a general manager, I would have a hard time with the goalposts moving, so to speak, midway through the regular season. So that would probably be the strongest argument against doing it, even if they're able to with the border and whatnot. But I mean, as we've seen, anything's possible now, so I wouldn't cross it off the list. But it sure seems highly unlikely that at some point through the 56-game schedule, suddenly there's going to be interdivisional play. I think that's a long shot.
I'm with Sean, though. I do see that as a possibility, because, and the other thing that's going to play into this a little bit is the TV contract. So I think if there is a way to get more interesting matchups, and like with these divisions, there is some interesting matchups, but there's a lot missing. Like, as an example, I think a lot of, there's the Crosby Ovechkin thing people have enjoyed over the years, but I think people are wanting to see more McDavid versus McKinnon as an example, and that's also going to be missed this year. So
I don't know. I'm gonna disagree with that a little bit. I know anytime NBC shows Edmonton, they hype up McDavid just as they do with Matthews and the Leafs, but given the losses that everybody's taken here so far, are NBC and Sportsnet really going to complain about not having, those U.S. versus Canada matchups available to them? I mean, if you're NBC and you don't have to show a Canadian team, that is a win 7 days of the week.
No, but what I'm saying, though, is they're going to want to have as many good matchups as possible. And the other thing with NBC that I do think is going to play into this a little bit is the NFL TV deal's up. And I don't think that there's a guarantee that NBC is going to be getting the Sunday night package. There's a lot of people who think they're going to lose that to ESPN and ABC, which is a huge money loss for NBC. Like, yes, they'll have the Olympics. So I think that they're going to do whatever they can to at least stay on that NHL bandwagon to make sure that they're on the sports side of it. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but like, I do think that if there is an possibility, at least for regional interdivisional play, so a Vancouver going down the West Coast to Anaheim, LA, San Jose kind of thing, I think that they would be open to looking at it. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but I'm sorry to our friends in Ottawa. I think we have friends in Ottawa, but there would be times I would prefer to see the Golden Knights versus the Canucks as opposed to seeing the Canucks versus the Senators.
Oh, yeah. I've said to many of my friends this whole all-Canadian division, and everybody's excited about it. I mean, the novelty is going to wear off after one circuit through, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I think is
it's going to get very repetitive.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, I think what's going to happen is they're going to have a drop dead date in terms of if the border is open by this time, and the quarantines and the COVID numbers are at a certain, they have to have like concrete milestones that have to be reached by a certain date. And if those milestones, and it'll be within the document that everyone signs off of before the season even starts. And if those milestones get met by a certain time, then they'll go to the interdivisional games and schedule. But if not, then they'll finish the season off within the division schedules and with all that. And then with that as well, I think that will also go part and parcel with potentially a playoff format decided upon based off of that. Because I if I was a team, an owner, a player, and you're telling me that I haven't played, if I'm on the Canucks and I haven't played any of the California teams and Vegas and all that, and potentially they could make the playoffs over the Canucks with a lesser record, or like with a bet, like what if you're going to 1 through 16 and you haven't had a balanced schedule. I think that's, like I said, I just think I at that point, I think it makes a lot of sense to set your playoffs and your rest of your schedule based off of milestones that have to be set by a certain time. And that could be as early as middle of February, like a month into the season.
And if the other thing is that, say for instance, the Canucks are whatever the playoff format is, if it is interdivisional 1 to 4 make the playoffs, and all of a sudden you open it up to the California teams, and Vancouver gets to go down and play the California teams who aren't supposed to be as strong this year as they haven't been in other years. How is that fair to everybody else in the division? Right? Like that's the other thing is how are you going, how is the NHL, if they open up the border, if they open up the divisions, how are they going to be able to say, okay, well, let's say Tampa Bay goes and plays Ottawa. Like how fair is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you, but I mean, I'm just playing with ideas here. I mean, unfortunately, we're not going to have the full 82 game season, so it's not going to be extremely balanced. But like, if you're Tampa, like, there's a lot of people. I will disagree with this, but I mean, one of the things the hockey guy said is it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Tampa Bay is going to win the Central Division. I think that they're the favorites, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I think there is a team that I think is going to challenge them this year that I think people are forgetting. But like, if you're Tampa Bay, I mean, you probably want to go and play the Flyers and the Penguins and some of those other teams just to see where you're at, because you're going to have to play them eventually.
Yeah. And that's just the all we just went through everything that probably has been discussed at nauseum throughout all these meetings with the owners and the return to play committee and all that. So good luck to them to try and figure it out and get it all on paper and get us a hockey season as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting as well. So then, let's go on to our next topic here. We are getting hockey sooner rather than later, as the World Juniors, Canada has their lineup, the U.S. has their lineup, Finland set their lineup. Did we see Sweden yet, or
they've set theirs? Yeah.
Hang on, World Junior Tournament. There we are. Okay, production value.
Yes.
Let's start with Canada. Obviously, we're Canadian. Connor Zary, I guess the good news from a Flames perspective, Connor Zary, Jacob Pelletier made the Canadian team, Devin. I think that's very exciting for them. Dustin Wolf, by the way, is made the U.S. team.
Yes.
Yeah. So kind of what excited about here? What are you looking forward to? We'll start with Devin.
I'm just super excited to see Pelletier play. He was injured last year, so he wasn't able to actually compete in the World Juniors a year ago. So I'd love to see him on a big stage. all I've heard is good things. Like Sam Cosentino was on Fan 960 yesterday talking about how his line is going to be one to watch out for. They're big, or they're not as big, but they can be physical, but they have a lot of skill as well. So I'm super excited to see Pelletier and Zary. I mean, he's made for this stuff, this type of tournament, the high pressure situations. He made a big impact when he played only 4 games in the WHL playoffs for the Kamloops Blazers. But yeah, he had 4 points in 4 games and 3 goals as well. So he thrives in these type of situations. So very, very excited to see him play. And yeah, I mean, Dustin Wolf, he's, as of right now, the highest touted prospect in the Flames farm system. So I'm really interested to see how he stacks up against the other goalies. And I'd like, to me, it all comes down to the goalies in this type of format, to how well they play. So watching him on the big stage is going to be fun to see as well.
I don't know who did the fancy. Who did that? Who did the graphic there?
This was tweeted out by Hockey Canada. This was the lines from first practice after they set the roster. So you can see Connor Zary playing with Quinton Byfield and Philip Tomasino, and then the line that Devin was talking about with Jacob Pelletier and Dylan Holloway being centered by Alex Newhook.
For one, I mean, he had a great playoff. Kirby Dach, I think he's going to be a key factor, obviously, in this tournament. I'm really excited to see what's going to come out of that. And Quinton Byfield, of course, he's going to be one of the stars of this tournament, I think. Byfield
is going to be one of the stars on Canada, along with Kirby Dach. You're going to have Vasily Podkolzin with the Russians, along with Amarov, a Leafs prospect, who's going to be they're going to be on a line together, and that'll be a tough line to play against. On Sweden, you've got Lucas Raymond and why am I drawing a blank on the other Swedish guy who was drafted this past year? Oh, I feel so horrible about that one. But yeah, you got those two. They were both top 10 picks this past year. Nick Robertson was supposed to be a top player for the U.S., but looks like him and the Leafs have decided to keep him in Toronto in prep for training camp with the Leafs. So, but there's still going to be a lot of really good players to watch in this tournament.
I think you're referring to Alexander Holtz, the Jet.
Yes, Holtz.
Yep.
Yes.
Good save.
Thank you.
And then with like Canadian wise, Jan Kuznetsov made the Russian team for the Flames. You got Team Finland, which is basic. I think they've got 3 or 4 Leafs on their roster.
Yep.
Arvid Kosmar made the Swedish team for the Canucks, and I expect him to actually play a big role. They lost who was going to be their top center to a positive COVID test just before the cutoff for everything everything on that for getting into the bubble in Edmonton. So he's going to have a big role on that. It looks like he could have a big role on the Swedish team. It's going to be fun. Like, I cannot wait to watch hockey and watch some normalcy. Like, it's been a while since we've been able to watch hockey in winter.
Yeah, no, I hate to be the downer here, but we talked with the NHL bubbles in the spring and summer about the lack of fans and how does that affect the game and the atmosphere and all that. I mean, I think in a World Junior tournament hosted in Canada, that is going to be a pretty dramatic difference. So it'll be interesting to see how that looks. It'll also be interesting to see how similar is it going to even appear on the TV from the NHL tournament. Are they just going to take over from what the NHL did there with all the fancy lights and staging and everything, or is the IHF and Hockey Canada going to set up something different? I'm kind of curious about that. The other thing that's interesting, a little bit, not so much for Team Canada, but for some of the other teams, the lower ranked teams in the tournament, is the fact that there won't be a relegation. And will that change the strategy of certain teams as the round robin goes on? So, it's still going to be pretty good. It'll be obviously great to have hockey back on the TV in some form, but this is going to go down as a World Junior tournament with that had to make a lot of compromises. So, and hopefully still has 10 teams. I mean, it's never know. We're going to get them all there.
Well, Sean and I were talking about this on Wednesday. The big other thing too is Canada is because they haven't played all year. There's a severe disadvantage for Canada in actual game where Sweden has played. Yes, they have a number of tests, but Canada isn't the favorite here in any way, shape, or form. And I think that there's going to be players just excited to get on the ice. So,
there's been, other than the QMJHL players have had some games, OHL and WHL have not. And none of the goalies for Canada have played a game. Other than I think a couple played in I know one of them played at the AJ in an exhibition for the AJHL. So it's going to be very interesting with that. While both all of Sweden, US, and Russia have all had their goaltenders playing games, and I think that's going to be the one area that I'm going to watch very closely.
Yeah, getting those reps in beforehand, the preparation that the coaching staff have to do here is pretty immaculate, and they're going to have to make sure that everybody is ready. I mean, we are talking out of the 22 players, 20 of them on the Canadian team they've been first round draft picks. So I think that with having that kind of pedigree at their age, they got to be. They got to be ready, and they have to make sure that they are preparing properly for these games up and coming. Because if you're not ready right when the puck hits the ice, you could be behind pretty damn quick.
Or you could be over ready and just get overhyped too, and that's the other factor of that is you almost want to do too much because you haven't played. So you got to play within yourself. I'm fascinated from the goaltending perspective how that's going to look, because we talked about that during the playoff bubble, but for junior kids too, I wonder what that's going to be like. I wonder myself, but it's going to be great to at least actually talk about some hockey in winter. I think that will be great at least. And the World Juniors are fun. It's a fun little tournament, so.
It'll be a really nice primer, hopefully, for leading up right into training camp and the start of the NHL season.
Yeah. A little fun fact here also on the back end. They have 5 right shot defensemen, which is kind of unheard of because you hear all the time in the NHL that right shot D is getting a good solid right shot defenseman is hard to find. So having 5 of them on the World Junior Canadian team is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is expanded rosters though, so I think they're carrying like 9 defensemen.
Yeah. Dude, the one guy I think is interesting too is this is an interesting junior tournament for Bowen Byram. I do think a lot of people expected him to make the Avalanche or at least compete for a spot. So, what are your thoughts on Bowen Byram? What are you hoping to see from him? So who did we have on last year? I'm drawing a blank that just wasn't as high on Bowen Byram last year as he was the year before. Do you remember who that was?
No, I don't, unfortunately. But the thing, Bowen Byram needs to dominate this tournament. I'm drawing you've got him, you've got Jamie Drysdale, Thomas Byram and Harley specifically. I want to see big things from. They're 2 of the older defensemen on the team, both former first round picks in 2019, and it's time for them to both step up. And Byram is a returning player too, so I expect big things from Bowen Byram, and if he doesn't dominate this tournament, it's going to be a disappointment for him.
Yeah, everything Sean said, I've been thinking as well. Byram's got to be a big presence here, or that's a big problem for Team Canada, I think.
That blue line is going to be key, because Devin talked about how many first-round picks and top-end picks the Team Canada has, but it's all on forwards and defense. The weakness is the goaltending, and it is a significant weakness compared to the caliber of players that are on the forwards and on blue line. So if the blue line can hold their own and make it easy for the goaltending, then it'll be a lot. The Canada will do a lot better than what they could potentially see with their lower end goaltenders than we normally see from Canada in these tournaments.
We got a comment from Tyler Clark. High mittens. I'm assuming that's.
Noble
Clark
Nation
and I
strong.
are going to have a word after this.
Fair enough. Do we want to go to the top 5D, or do we want to go?
It's top 5D.
All right. So Sean and I did our top. There was released Anthony Stewart and Bourne set out the top 5D on Canadian teams. I think I've said that wrong 7 times, so I wanted to make sure I said it right. Not the top 5 Canadian defensemen, the top 5 defensemen on Canadian teams. Sean, to recap, how did you order yours?
Well, I had Quinn Hughes as number 1. I had Thomas Chabot as number 2. Shea Weber number 3, Morgan Riley number 4, and I had Nate Schmidt at number 5. But I said, as a caveat, I said that it's an absolute, like, there's 4 or 5 defensemen that you can make a decision on, and you're not wrong. Anyone from Schmidt to Giordano to Morrissey, Jeff Petrie deserves a lot of credit for what he does in Montreal as well. So once you get to 5, I think it's a pick 'em, and there's a handful of defensemen that you can't go wrong with. And I can see Devin's face going, "Oh, he picked another Canucks defenseman." Ooh, but it's razor thin. And if you pick Giordano, I wouldn't be upset. If you pick Morrissey, I wouldn't be upset. If you picked Jeff Petrie, I wouldn't be upset. So,
for my top 5, for the record, it's Hughes, Chabot, Morgan Riley, Shea Weber, Josh Morrissey.
That's kind of the 5 that I like. I'm not sure about particular order. We're mostly Canucks people here. It's it'd be easier to put Quinn Hughes at the top of the list, but there's some worthy debate around that as well. Chabot a little underappreciated, I think, just because he's playing with Ottawa, and Ottawa hasn't been very strong here the last little while. But it's like Sean said, you can really pick them on when you get into that 5 to 10 range in terms of quality defensemen on NHL teams. Just wanted to make a quip that I didn't hear any Edmonton Oilers on your lists.
The only one you could put in there would be Darnell Nurse.
Yes.
Well, where do I start? Holy shit. Okay, so hold on.
What we love about Devin is we have the calmness, and then Devin comes in.
Do we need to make his box the full screen and put us on the side now because he's going into it?
Let's get Devin the floor here.
There we go.
Okay. So I agree that Quinn Hughes has higher potential for sure, or like has a higher end offensive skill set than Thomas Chabot. But you can't not give me that you have Hughes ahead of Chabot. he is overall a better defenseman as of right now than Quinn Hughes. I'm not talking about potential because I think Quinn Hughes will eventually get up above where Shabbat is right now. But I mean, I understand Sean's thought process of having Quinn Hughes as number one because he is a Canuck honk. But give your head a shake, man. God.
Hey, Dev. Kevin also had him as number one.
I thought his was out of order.
No, mine was, I had Hughes and Shabbat, and maybe for me, I guess the difference was playoff experience. That
1 year
to me, okay. Hughes and Shabbat are here, and everyone else is here. Like, I think where Shabbat has an edge on Hughes is I think that he can play a 3-minute number one defenseman game right now better than Quinn Hughes. I will give you that. But I
So what are you doing then?
So am I hearing this right that Devin has a problem with small sample size when he's the same guy that turns around and says, "Oh yeah, Thatcher Demko's a number one goalie with 10 games experience"?
Oh.
I did not say that. First of all,
that's what it seemed like.
You're put. Okay, Thatcher Demko. I said that he has a small sample size, but he has potential to if you give him enough runway. And he got it in the playoffs. He was able to show that he was able to be
the best D-man of a Canadian team. But anyway.
Oh, man. But yeah, Kevin, you said it right there, man. Shabbat is a better 30-minute first defenseman than Quinn Hughes. But you have Quinn Hughes ahead of Shabbat. We're talking about right now. We're not talking about potential, right?
Yeah, right now.
But in terms of what Quinn Hughes did against Vegas and his offensive, I think his ability offensively to create things, I think he is better than Shabbat at this particular point in time.
I also think Shabbat would have his a little bit more room to do what he would want to do because he does have that offensive skill, but he has too much responsibility on that back end to actually let loose and do stuff with it, right? Like look at that defense. He was playing with fucking Ron Hainsey, for God's sakes.
The great Ron Hainsey.
Oh my God. So yes, okay. All right. Aside from that, I agree with you. I think Josh Morris is in the mix. I think Morgan Riley is in the mix, but I think that I do like Shea Weber. I do. Don't get me wrong. But my wild card in there, just like Sean's was Nate Schmidt, it would be Darnell Nurse. I think Darnell Nurse is underrated, unutilized up in Edmonton, and I think that he has a lot to give offensively, defensively. Just his 300, or yeah, just his overall game, I think is fantastic. So I have him as my number 5.
Fair. Tyler?
I didn't put enough research into this to rank him. I know I'm wussing out on it there, but I on the point of Shabbat, again, I feel like he's a bit of an underrated D-man just because of where he plays. So it's not, to me, ridiculous to put him number one on the list here.
Is that from sample size?
Well, it's a little bit more of a sample than Quinn Hughes, I guess.
By the way, I just tweeted out from Podcast Hockey the tweet, our poll, who is better, Thomas Shabbat or Quinn Hughes? So vote on that, and we'll see what the people think. I don't think that John and I are saying that anything bad about Thomas Shabbat. We just think Hughes is better.
I think you saying that right now is putting Shabbat down for what he actually is and can do for your hockey team. Once again, who does he have around him to support him? You know, last year, hold on.
Make that same argument for Hughes. Actually,
Chris Tanev.
Chris Tanev. Dad, you guys put Chris Tanev way up here.
Now. Dad is with the Flames now.
I know, but I'm saying that you guys put Chris Tanev and what he brought to Quinn Hughes and how he developed Quinn Hughes on such a pedestal last year, and now you're saying who was around him? Chris Tanev.
I'm not saying that. I agree with you, everything you're saying there, Dev, with Shabbat. The way I looked at it is that who has the ability to impact a game in a dynamic way and help the team win more. And right now, even if it is such a small sample size, I still think it's Quinn Hughes. And that's nothing against Chabot, because I think he is, like, when you looked at the two lists that we that brought up this conversation, Chabot was not even in the top two. Like, he was third on Anthony Stewart's list, and he was fifth on Justin Bourne's list.
Both of them need to give their head a shake then. Good Lord.
They have Morgan Riley on their list.
Let's see. Morgan Riley was fourth on Anthony Stewart's list and second on Justin Bourne's list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a bit of recency bias there for sure, just like with your guys'. I understand that. I just don't understand how you can't think that Thomas Chabot is not at least one or two. That's absolutely ridiculous.
And I think that's where Kevin and I are coming in at, where with those two are legit. The right, like, you can swap them, and I don't think you're making it an argument, and you're not wrong. And then you've got Weber and Riley, and then there's like a handful of defensemen that you could throw in there at 5 and make an argument for. So,
yeah. I agree with Sean, and I think, to me, I like Morgan Riley. I think Weber gets a lot of credit because he's a warrior, but I do like a lot of the things that Morgan Riley brings to the team. I think he's a better skater. I love how he handles the puck. I mean, Devin, you know that, following the Leafs. I would put Riley over Weber, but a lot of people would disagree with me, obviously. So
that's why we do it.
That's why we do it, man.
A couple of good BC boys there too, by the way.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess let's move on. Did we have anything else to discuss on this?
Unless
everybody else
is
wrong. Oh. Man. I'm curious of what our poll's going to say.
Yeah, so far, we have, well, if you guys can all vote on it, that might help.
Well, we know which way that poll's going to go.
Well, I don't know. Do we? Because Tyler, did you say that you haven't? Are you doing Hughes?
I'm going with Hughes, but
that's 50-50 right now.
All right, there we go. Everyone vote on Twitter on that. So we'll see where that goes, and maybe we'll bring that up on Wednesday where we're at there. It's being retweeted. Excellent. Well done. So John Shannon created some stir here. He sent out a tweet on Thursday saying that the NHL was. Do we have the tweet? Let's read the exact tweet here. I want to make sure that I have this right, because I think that this. I'm going to precurse by saying I think what happened here was a lot of nuance and a lot of things got blown out of proportion a little bit without knowing exactly. And it's understandable why it got blown out of proportion, because I think the tweet didn't help it. Devin tweeted out potential. I don't know what potential.
Oh, Jesus. I got these fat fingers, all right?
So this is John Shannon's tweet. Sources confirm that the NHL is planning a private purchase of a COVID vaccine for all constituents involved in the potential upcoming season, which I think sent people through the roof. And then Shannon...
People were white hot about this, by the way. White hot about this.
Like explode. And then Shannon later tweeted... to clarify, an hour later.
Yeah. Speed kills in this world.
Yeah. Basically, he said, clarifying that, for clarification, the NHL is interested in securing vaccine when it's available for a private purchase. Is it at this point? No. The league also is adamant that they would not jump the line to do so. And I think maybe we should hear from Patty Heidi first, if we have that.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
just while he loads that up, I mean, John Shannon obviously very well connected in NHL circles, and has whenever he's had scoops, I don't recall any of them being wrong in any kind of recent time. So obviously this was taken very seriously when he put that out there.
Okay. So Heidi was asked about this, and this is what she had to say. Yeah, so basically, first of all, the reporter, I'm just going to say it, I don't care who it was, that was very shitty on what the reporter did. That was gotcha journalism at its purest, finest ridiculousness. And I thought Patty Heidi answered that question as professionally as she possibly could. But really, at this point, and maybe we'll start with Tyler here, at this point, it's really hard for the Canadian government to do a lot if a private company actually wants to purchase vaccines for a corporation. But go ahead, Tyler. I'll let you.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty well kind of, I think, sort of close the lid on the issue. I mean, the government's going to procure their vaccines in as quick a timeline and in as great a quantity as they possibly can, but they are still kind of reliant on private companies to supply the vaccines, and they don't, as we've been told, don't have the mechanism to stop them from doing this. I think a lot of large corporations would be looking at this. It's the same as flu vaccines. I mean, companies, bigger employers bring flu vaccines to their workplace, and I wouldn't say pressure their employees to take the vaccine, but strongly encourage them to take the vaccine so that you have a workforce that is, dependable during the winter, and you're not losing half of them because of the flu. And so we'll see. But I mean, even if the NHL got, say, 3,000 vaccines, I mean, that's like a fraction of a percent of the broader population in North America that would supposedly have to wait a little longer to get the vaccine. So optically it looks poor, but in reality, if the NHL, acquires some vaccines through private means while the public inoculation goes on, I don't really see it as a big issue. But the way that it came out certainly, looked bad.
Yeah, it's go ahead, Dev.
I mean, are we surprised that athletes or celebrities are going to get this before the actual public does? No, I'm not surprised at all. It kind of goes also hand in hand with, say, for instance, someone it gets hurt on the ice. All of a sudden, they have immediate access to an MRI machine and better facilities just because of where they work and what they do for a living. So I personally am not surprised. I don't think anybody should be. Eventually, it'll all be rolled out. I mean, the U.S. is getting more vaccines than Canada is. Why are we in an uproar about that? Like, to me, it's just complete bullshit, and people need to take a step back, relax, and if you're upset about it, fine, be upset about it, but don't act surprised that this could be and will be happening.
I mean, I think there's definitely a difference on both sides of the borders here. I mean, in the United States, I mean, they don't have a public healthcare system, so this really shouldn't be a surprise down there that those that can afford it are going to get the access first. But that's not how we think up here, right? So when you hear this, it really rankles people. But like I said, I mean, in terms of percent of the population that's supposedly going to be affected by it, I mean, it's minuscule, right?
And correct me if I'm wrong. There is one of the vaccines needs to be held in a ridiculously cold temperature.
I think they all do. If I'm not
Yeah.
Moderna, I think, needs to be.
Okay, it's Moderna. Yeah. But
yeah.
the one thing right now is that all the Pfizer vaccine that's been accepted and passed by the FDA in the States, Canada Health, I know in Britain as well. That stuff is not as bad. I think everything that Pfizer has been sold to countries at this point. Whatever the NHL will be able to procure will be farther down the line in terms of getting it to people than what is available now. And they might not even get it until halfway through the season, I think, because they aren't going to be able to outbid countries and everything like that, I don't think. So I think it's a touchy subject, especially up here in Canada with our free universal health care mandate and how everyone's worried about the rollout of the vaccine and when they're going to get it, because everyone wants to get back to whatever normal will be going forwards. So I'm not nearly as in an uproar as Devin in terms of saying calm down and all that. I think there's definitely some legit concerns here, but it's just, unfortunately, it is the reality of where we're at, and because the NHL operates out of the States, their office is out of New York. It's not out of Toronto. It's not out of Calgary. It's not out of Vancouver. It's out of the States.
Yeah, that's important. It's a U.S. sports league with Canadian teams in it.
Yeah, that is important. It's not. Yeah,
they're going to be able to acquire the vaccine through the everything in the States, and then they'll be able to ship it up to the Canadian teams after that. So it's not going to affect who gets it in Canada. In terms of when they get it and everything, as Tyler said, I don't think the amount of vaccines they will potentially get will be enough that it'll be putting people out of vaccines by that time as well. So it's an optics issue. The Calgary Flames went through it in back when H1N1 was a thing. Man, I miss those days.
Yeah.
That disease was a lot less of a hindrance on everyone's lives, and that was still horrible. So it's an optics issue, especially up here in Canada with how much we value our universal health care, and the fact that Canada, the government has stepped up and said that whoever wants the vaccine can get it and can get it for free.
I think if it was a team, if it was Shannon tweeted out the Calgary Flames are looking to purchase some vaccines for their team, I think there would have been a really high legitimate reason to be angry, because the Flames have. I mean, the optics on that don't look good. If the John Shannon tweeted that the NHL is disputing and claiming that they're essential workers and they have a priority to the vaccine, I can see some people arguing about that as well, because the optics on that don't look good. But it really seemed to me that John, I could be wrong, but the way I read this was John Shannon was a little bit out of step with this tweet and put the NHL in a little bit of bad light and stepped into it a little bit and had to walk it back. That's the way that I have read the tweet.
Either that, or I think they were just, although I don't understand why they wouldn't know that the reaction that came wasn't going to come. Testing the water to see what people were going to say, but on social media specifically, especially on Twitter, you're going to get very loud oppositions to anything where you're buying something that is healthcare related.
Of course, when the clarification came out, people were like, "Oh, well, that would have been helpful to know an hour ago." But why was there a separation in the clarification? Well, I mean, there's lots of motivations behind stuff that's leaked to the media, and how much detail gets leaked to the media. And I think it's along the lines of what Sean said. They were testing the waters. They probably suspected that there would be backlash, but when it was so swift and dramatic, then came walking back some of the details afterwards.
That being said, when you look at the tweet that John Shannon sent out, the original one, there was nothing about jumping the line. There was nothing about procuring it in ways that weren't going to poorly impact the healthcare systems at all. It was just the way people took it because of how much of a hot button topic and an emotional topic this is now, especially right now where the COVID fatigue and how everyone just wants to get back to being able to see their friends and hug their friends and do go out and be social the way we've been brought up to be.
How about having our rec league hockey season continue? That'd be nice too, wouldn't it?
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Can I broadcast a play-by-play for the Greater Vancouver Canadians, please?
Yeah. And that's everything, right? So I think it's just everyone's a little on edge. And he said, when you reread what he put out there was nothing about jumping the line. That's just the way where everyone jumped to that conclusion, just because of how I think everyone remembers what the Flames did with H1N1, and they jumped the line in terms of how they handled that. So it was probably testing the waters more than anything else to see how bad the optics would be if they did it.
Let me clarify as well for all of our fans out there. I don't want to get angry tweets or anything like that. With all my followers,
if you tweeted more, you would actually get angry tweets.
I have been tweeting more. Hello, good God. Let's shit on Devin Day. How about that? Let's go.
You're an easy target.
Yeah, obviously. Heidi, if you're listening, I need you back here, please. I just want to clarify that, yes, obviously, our immediate surroundings are being tested right now, and we all want to get back to normalcy. But just take a goddamn chill pill. Everybody just get a joint or something, smoke something, whatever you want, and just relax. How about that? Hey, some CBD, chill.
I never thought in a million years that we would be promoting the smoking a joint on the hockey podcast, but here we are.
Take a drink, smoke a joint. It's all legal.
Yeah.
It is all legal. And you know what? Coming from the most controversial guy on this podcast, are you surprised?
No. But I think I do see what you're saying, Devin, because I think it's so easy on Twitter just to react to what somebody is saying, and sometimes you just need to just because you read it doesn't mean that just wait. Just wait. I mean, let's see what happens sometimes. And I just think people need to I agree with you, Devin. Hey, what's really going on here? Because sometimes the story isn't in the first headline. The story is a couple paragraphs later. So, it was obviously clarified. And, maybe, could the next, let's pretend this. Could the next tweet have been the NHL is purchasing vaccines for to help distribute them within the community so we can, so people can be distributed and we can get back to normal faster. What if that was the tweet? Would everyone have been like, "Oh, I can't believe that they're jumping the gear. Oh my God."
That being said, Kev, I think if the NHL wants to purchase the vaccine and give it to all the key the players, the management and scouts and coaching staff and equipment managers and all that, maybe you do take a little bit look at that and go, all right, maybe we buy a little bit extra and give it to people who want it, so that we can, because that's going to help them in the long term, because the sooner you get more people vaccinated, the sooner you can get fans back in the stands.
And I would hope that, the people that are itching to have sports back are not, then also complaining about this, right? Like those two things kind of conflict. And look, if the goal is to get as many people as possible vaccinated, I mean, is it really that big a deal that some are getting it a little bit sooner because of a private acquisition through their sports league or their employer or the industry association or whatever mechanisms being used?
I mean, Dr. Bonnie Henry was asked what she wanted for Christmas. It was a vaccine. So, hey, if that happened and we got everybody vaccinated, I'm not saying this is going to happen. We've got more people vaccinated by Christmas. Is anyone going to be upset?
Yeah, that's part of it too. Like it also takes them out of getting it with going through the whole process and adding to the lines elsewhere, because they're going to have their own people administer it. So this isn't like you're jumping the gun for like surgeries and all that, which they do, but this is in the long term. As long as they don't jump the gun on the first wave of the vaccines, where you're giving it to the people who need it the most, aka all the doctors and nurses and frontline staff who are putting their lives and well-being on the line to treat people with COVID, then I think it's once it's all settled down, the impact won't be as big as a lot of people think it would be.
Rick Westhead at TSN always does great work, investigative work. He did a little bit on this topic here, and they did raise the idea that there could be some benefit to having pro athletes get the vaccine sooner rather than later, for the simple fact of trying to ease the reluctance of people who are unsure about the vaccine. If they see their idols, their role models, their heroes in professional sports taking the vaccine without hesitation, maybe that might get a few people over from the anti-vaxxer side of it, over into the group that is ready to take the vaccine as soon as it's available to them.
Yeah, there is an educational component that I think the Canadian government needs to be on. And I think, get celebrities.
The power of celebrity is huge, right? Like that.
Absolutely.
I don't think we should discount that.
Like if Vancouver, if you get Henrik and Daniel Sedin to talk about this COVID vaccination, I think that people will listen.
Or even using current examples, if Bo Horvat and Elias Pettersson are taking the vaccine, I think that definitely moves the needles in favor of people that are, a little on the fence about the vaccine.
Yeah,
surprised you didn't use Quinn Hughes.
Well, no, that's just defense.
We've talked enough about him, Devin.
you met the quota.
You've
okay.
enough on him, and we've bumped his tire hard enough.
I mean,
the sooner we get everyone vaccinated, the less COVID monster ads we see on from the Alberta government.
Oh, that is great. Can I just say how much I loved that character?
Yeah.
I did. I think
for those who don't know, like the Alberta government has been trying a new tact to try and get people to understand that COVID doesn't care. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're out with other people, it could still be there. And they've got this like just weird looking the head is the COVID virus molecule, and it's quite entertaining for in my opinion, and quite hilarious.
What I'm curious to know is the NHL or other sports leagues going to require that fans show proof of vaccination in order to go to games?
I was talking to someone at school, and I heard for concerts that Ticketmaster was going to require a proof of vaccination before you could purchase a ticket.
Well, if if Ticketmaster is going to do that for concerts, wouldn't they be doing that for sports too? I mean, they're the ticket provider for all the sports teams in Canada.
I mean, the problem though is it's not mandatory to take it. So is it?
You got some real legal issues that are going to pop up there.
Yeah, that is a mess and a discussion for another time.
Yeah,
do on the Kev Ole podcast, maybe not on the hockey. Just thinking.
I mean, I'm sure that's being thought hard about at NHL headquarters. You know,
I guess the other side of that is if you're the Canucks, though, or the Flames, you can say if you're not. I think you have a right to say who comes into your building or not. I mean, you like as an example, they do investigate what's in your bag. If you have alcohol, you can't go in. So there is that sort of, I don't know, that is an interesting issue.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you go offside in terms of certain behaviors and you violate what's in the fine print on the back of the ticket, you get banned. So I think teams have the right to restrict who comes in based on that, but that won't be well received, of course.
Yeah,
we're not there yet though.
If you're thinking about ticket sales too, imagine how many people, if they don't mandate that, how many people who have season tickets are going to potentially back out because there's going to be people in the arena who have not been vaccinated too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I said, we went through what was all the challenges of just trying to start a season without fans, and these new divisions at the beginning of the podcast. Once you add fans, it's a ginormous new monster that's going to just it makes my head hurt trying to figure out all the different pitfalls, all the different issues that they're going to have to figure out before they can even have they can do that. And especially once the vaccine's regularly available.
Yeah. I could say this: there will definitely be no fans sitting near the tunnels where the players will leave the players' benches and so on. We saw that with the baseball postseason. There were fans in the stands, but you couldn't get to those first 10 rows or whatever. You couldn't get anywhere near the players.
Yeah, benches, penalty box.
Yeah,
all will be.
It'll be restricted. I'm going to say this. I said this in the summer, but I think the first people that have a right to tickets are healthcare workers and frontline essential workers. I think that there should be a night specifically for them that they get tickets and they get to enjoy the first game. So
it would be very honorable and nice if they did that. We shall see, though. I don't know. Have they even thought of that?
Well, I'm putting it out there.
I'm glad you have, Kevin.
But maybe not even the first game, but maybe just one game that they could do that. But yeah, it is a nice thought for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of images, our last topic is Elias Pettersson, who has been on a social media campaign. Who, he's went on he went on the Spit and Chicklets podcast. Some were not happy he did that. However, he's done a bunch of other things that he did a Twitch. He sent.
Man, you sound so hip, Kevin. He did a Twitch.
He did a Twitch. Do you not look at me as hip? Hip as any other non-hip person out there. So and he did Twitch. He's done some stuff with Adam Gaudette, and then Dave Northam, I think, was the man that tweeted out that he sent a new reverse retro jersey to him as he was leaving the hospital. All the best to Dave. I know that Canucks Conversation, Chris Faber, David Quadrelli are doing are doing a shout out to them. They're doing a fundraiser, Call of Duty, GoFundMe for David Northam. So follow Chris Faber and Quadrelli on that and support that if you can. But of all the conversation that we had with Brendan Leipsic, with Hannah coming on, and Canucks anger with Brandon Prust, It is so refreshing to see a guy use his social media platform in a positive way. And I'm excited for this because I think that this is an opportunity for Pettersson is planting the seed for other players to get out there and speak the way that we've wanted National Hockey League. We don't want Brandon Prusts of the world saying the crap that they have said. We've even talked about Theoren Fleury and what his tweets have done to his image. What Pettersson is doing is a positive way to get an NHL message out there, and I hope that this leads other players to do sort of some of the same things.
Well, we're seeing more and more professional athletes start to turn to streaming and social media as a way of extending their brands. One thing that I started watching and following during all this and not with no hockey was Formula One. And when they went down into their first lockdown, all the young Formula One drivers started streaming, and they gained a lot of fans because of that. And you have Adam Gaudette is a big one on the Canucks, and Pettersson joined him. Gaudette, I think we need to talk more about Gaudette and what him and his wife are doing to build quote unquote their brands. On TikTok, they're on there doing a lot of fun little videos, and they had one go pretty viral when he accidentally kicked her in the head on their wedding day when he was trying to do a sexy dance. And but it's great to see them. A lot of people want to see their personalities and see what they are like away from hockey and away from the ice. I'm definitely not one of the people who necessarily needs that, but it's still a nice plus. So we're gonna see more and more of that, and it's not necessarily going to be the same as what Petey's doing. I know this player is a little controversial after some of his actions in the lead up to this past season. But Austin Matthews has been very conscious about what his brand is. PK Subban is very conscious of what his brand is. And you're seeing a lot more of that with these younger players being very conscious about what their brand is and trying to extend that. And the more you see these players outside of sports, the better. Even if you aren't someone who necessarily needs that, like I am.
Well, and I think the key here is that Elias Pettersson is a star player in his sport that's doing this. We've seen a lot of cases where it's not the star players or retired players or a combination of retired not star players that are the ones that are being vocal. And then if they say something that's going to ruffle feathers, then people start questioning the credibility of it and so on. So the star power is important to have your stars. If we're going to have a world where athletes have this unfiltered access to Twitter and different social media streams to build their brand, then we really need the star players to be part of that. So, Elias Pettersson, I think ever since he showed up in the NHL has really been ahead of the curve on this stuff. He's a very smart dude. He's not afraid to be himself and show activities that sometimes people may question a little bit in terms of, is this a good idea for the off season? Some of the stuff at the lake and whatnot. But we want our athletes to show their human side, and we're getting that. So I think it's great.
One guy out of Calgary, David Riddick, I feel like he's done a good job doing that as well, showing off his more personable side as well. So, you do need your star players. You do need your Elias Petterssons. I'd love to see more Connor McDavid. I think maybe even more Sidney Crosby, because we really don't know who Sidney Crosby is.
Yeah, that's
just a robot.
Example. Like he has just zero brand or social media presence, and He's been around so long now. I don't expect that to change, but it would be neat to see, what's it like in Sid's world.
Totally, and once Ovi won the cup, there's a bunch of videos that went out of him singing "We Are the Champions" outside of his fire at his place, and little things like that do go a long way, and even having the HBO series going by, kind of taking a peek inside the locker rooms and what's happening there. I think that's been a good process too. So it's trending in the right direction, which is good. And having that accessibility and the acceptance from the ownership to the NHL as a whole entity, I think is fantastic. And you know what? I would even like to see who Gary Bettman is outside of hockey. Just to see what his life is like and what he is, other than just being a quote unquote greasy lawyer who is running the NHL. So I think even just outside of that, having that that access has been fantastic. And on a separate note as well, the having the explanations from the Department of Safety is really come a long way. So there's a lot of things that play right now that have been positive towards getting us to understand a little bit more of what happens behind the scenes, which I really enjoy.
I'm just kind of picturing Gary Bettman walking down the street, the headset on as he goes for his run.
But he has that in his headphones as he's walking down the street. Yeah,
I think it's entirely.
He feeds off those. Don't you know that?
Sorry, Devin. This is going to sound like I'm a Canucks honk, but I'm going to just hear me out though. I think of one person that I think deserves a lot of credit in a weird way to allow personality to come out was Kevin Bieksa, because of what he did on Hockey Night in Canada. He let his personality out. And I think it gave permission for hockey to actually let their personality out. I know that that's probably a really weird thing to say, but like pre all of this, like we were stuffed shirts. And I think Kevin Bieksa just allowed players to just release themselves a little bit more. I think in a weird way, Bieksa deserves some credit for that.
I think you are right, but because I think part of that was because everyone was worried, was stepping on eggshells a little bit after the Don Cherry and the Jeremy Roenick is about someone else who was very like to do his brand was Jeremy Roenick, but they're also very controversial. So I think rightly or wrongly, there was a little bit of walking on eggshells, and then Bieksa came along and just loosened everything up and all that. But he was also one who was pre social media, really. But like, how many times was it the interview with the walk-off interview with between periods where he was doing the shots and milk toast and all that. So he was also someone, but he was pre-social media, and that's the one thing with Sidney Crosby. He's definitely of the older school mindset. He came in before social media was really a big thing, so it wasn't a part of what you had to do as a young athlete or did as a young athlete. So I don't think we're ever going to see that, at least during his playing career. I don't think we're going to see that from Sidney Crosby. We're starting to see a little bit of it with Connor McDavid with his very black house.
Yeah.
But you're not going to like everything you see with these players too, and you're going to latch on to the ones you do, and you're going to make him. It's going to be really interesting to see how the fans evolve with that too, because I've thought about this for a little bit. However, like I've got 3 jerseys with names on the back of them behind me, but I've also got a few jerseys, including this new one that doesn't have a name on the back, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because I'm of the older school where you cheer for the logo and the logo on the front and not necessarily the player on the back, but that's changing, especially like even as a fan and how people approach their fandom as sports fans. There's a lot more people cheering for more the names on the back than the teams on the front.
It's kind of a turn like the NBA has, right? You see a lot of people like the brand of Kevin Durant or like the brand of Steph Curry or LeBron James, right? So it's I can definitely see that too. But going back, I don't want to say anything bad about Kevin Bieksa because I do like him. As a good personality, but even before Kevin Bieksa, Spit and Chicklets with Paul Bissonnette, really, I think that was the turning point of seeing the other side of these hockey players and having them feel comfortable doing that too without having any repercussions. Shout out to Spit and Chicklets and Paul Bissonnette for his brand and what he's brought to the NHL players of having that trust between media and players.
Yeah.
And as I said, you're not going to like all of them. And Spit and Chicklets is definitely controversial because of its affiliation to Barstool Sports. But Devin is right. What their interviews and what the relaxed feel they bring to get these players to open up, it definitely changed how these players acted in a social scene, a social media public scene since they started out, and it is a good thing. I've said this before. I really do think that if they're doing all right, but I think they've hit their ceiling at under that affiliation. If Spit and Chicklets wants to take it to the next level, I think there is one or two more levels that they could take it to with different affiliations, because once they get out of there, they will be able to. There'll be people who will listen and watch a lot of their content more willingly because of they won't no longer be affiliated with such a controversial company.
Spit and Chicklets has managed to get non-players to loosen up as well. Recently, Pierre Maguire was on their podcast, and I thought that was a really good appearance, and a lot's made about Pierre Maguire with his style doing hockey broadcast. But you listen to him in a more relaxed format of a podcast, and it was great. Ron McLean's another one too from quite a while back where he was on, where you weren't getting the usual shtick out of him. You were just listening more to an open, chilled out guy. It was nice.
Yeah. I mean, look, as Sean said, I know that there's people not going to like them, but what they're doing for the people that want to listen to them, and it works. And like any other podcast, you can choose to listen or not to. I mean,
But definitely listen to ours.
Absolutely. Listen.
Yeah, no, you don't have a choice. You have to keep listening to this
you
one.
Must actually, yes. Or we were going to send the COVID month. No, we won't.
No.
And Kev, is there any way we can clip what Sean said at the very beginning of his last talking point? He said, Devin is right. Yeah, if we can clip that.
Timestamp it, 12:41 Pacific time.
Yeah,
December 12th, 2020.
Every once in a while, you make a good point there, Dev. Every once in a while.
There's a token good point mixed into every show.
Yeah.
All right. If there's any Calgary Flames fans who want to join our podcast so that they can, support me and what I'm saying, that'd be fantastic. Or even just a non-biased opinion.
Support
would be
him.
fantastic.
Look at the screen, okay? He's got a Leaf shirt on, a Calgary hat on. He's all confused. He's got Gordie Howe.
Gordie Howe up there.
Hey, then I got Lindros, Gretzky, and Lemieux as well. So, and
Zalapsky take a hell of a referee with this approach here.
But honestly, that right there, the Zalapsky stick is my favorite thing that I own. Period.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. We'll tease that for next week. Devin can put together that story. No, it's a very cool story.
I do see that.
Yeah. We'll give Devin some time to talk about that the story behind that stick at some point, because it's a story that deserves to be told.
All right,
We're almost off the rails here, Kevin.
Almost. So how do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
And I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
Support Devin at Gordhouse09.
Nice.
Tweet more.
Tweet more.
Tweet more.
You can follow Heidi, Hyde Amazeballs, Schneid, SCHNEIDZ, IMKVOLE, podcast_hockey. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Tell your friends on YouTube. Tell your friends about the most underrated podcast in hockey, next to the Spit and Chicklets, of course. And then subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And I will just end it here. This last comment from Jake, my guy Mittens, just killing the commentary. Once again, we will talk to you all very soon.
Noble Nation.
Noble Nation.